You're listening to Real and Raw Adoptee Talks with Emma Greenslade.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to today's show with me, Emma Greenslade of Real and Raw Adoptee Talks. And today we are talking with Ruthie. Hi, Ruthie.
Hi.
Hi. So Ruthie is a domestic adoptee. She's a writer, a health and wellness coach, and today she's talking about her writing and her books and the projects that she has in the works, with the title of today's show, The Adoptees Voice, The Struggle to be Heard. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our absolute pleasure. So, Ruthie, let's start right at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, I'm a domestic infant adoptee. I live in the U.S. I'm from Arkansas, born and raised, but I'm currently living in Texas. I was adopted at 4 days old. Even though my father wanted me, lies kept us apart until recently. That's been a pretty interesting story. Even though I had what the world would consider a good adoption, plenty of opportunities, and I wasn't abused. Running parallel to that has always been a litany of related traumas. Things like looking different from my adoptive family, not being accepted by extended family, secondary rejection, among many others. I'm also a writer and a board-certified health and wellness coach, like you said. Both my writing and coaching focuses specifically on adoptee mental wellness and healing.
Oh, that's beautiful. Really good. So I'm pleased that you are helping other adoptees through their journey. Is that through writing or through the coaching?
It's both. It started out as writing, but I'm actually teaming up with another adoptee, and we are going to do an adoptee mental wellness course in February, starting in February.
That's lovely. So, okay, so we will put into the show notes how our listeners can get in contact with you if they would like to be part of that course that you're creating.
Okay, great.
So at what point did you decide you wanted to help other adoptees?
It was really earlier this summer when I started coming out of the fog. I was in a great place, but I had an unexpected reunion with a biological uncle, and that kind of triggered my PTSD and sent me to, kind of a bad place. But writing was my go-to. And as I wrote through the pain, I began sharing snippets of my work on Instagram. I wasn't expecting the validation of so many fellow adoptees saying they could relate to my words and what I was saying, help them to make sense of things. That was both encouraging to me, but it also gave me the confidence that what I had to say was relevant and was helpful to others.
Mm. So for our listeners who've not ever heard of the expression, the fog, what's the difference between the fog and coming out of the fog?
The fog is it's a common term among adoptees. It's in a place where we're not really aware of our trauma. Adoption trauma is largely denied by society, and as a result, we live with a lot of these problems and we don't attribute them to our adoption. That's where I was at, and then once I met my uncle, I started realizing just how much was attributed to my adoption. I started studying about relinquishment trauma. That's the trauma where a mother and the infant are separated. But, learning that was the source of my trauma was the key to healing it. So,
And so how did you understand, what kind of things did it really look like when you were coming out of the fog?
It was an emotional experience. But at the same time, there was a lot of clarity. Things started making sense. I read The Primal Wound. Highly recommend that book. It was like reading it was like she wrote it about me. So that was very validating.
And what sort of things did you do to heal the emotional wounds that were created by the relinquishment? So the ones that are outlined in Nancy Verrier's book.
Yes, like I said, writing was my primary coping tool. Connecting with other adoptees, finding the online adoptee community has been invaluable. Just the validation and the support. Those are the two main things. And I have a good support system outside of the adoptee community as well. Okay. But connecting with other adoptees is just invaluable. The support is, the understanding, it's just unmatched.
Beautiful. So for our listeners, I have a course actually that is specifically around the trauma that is described in Nancy Verrier's book, The Primal Wound, around there's actually, for me, there's 8 core issues around adoption. And so if you would like to come and join me on that course, then I'll put the link into the show notes. And yeah, it's an invaluable course to really get underneath the trauma and the emotions that have been stored within the body. So what do you see as the need for adoptees to start changing their outlook and outcomes from kind of maybe perhaps living in the past, or not even realizing that their adoption has created this numbing, this not being able to feel these feelings that they experience, and getting underneath the emotions that actually are triggered by particular phrases, or somebody might just say something.
Well, I think it's important to remember that is a trauma response. I went through a period this summer where I struggled a lot with anger. I said a lot of things that I normally wouldn't say. I think when we hear adoptees say things, we have to remember that there's a lot of justified anger and sadness, and but I think there has to be a widespread awareness of and recognition of the trauma for what it is, because adoptees, I've spoken to adoptees recently who are adult, who had no clue that being separated from their birth mother caused issues. And, now that they're learning that, they're like, yes, I've always struggled with rejection, abandonment, loneliness, self-worth. And they're just now putting it together that it relates back to that. So one of my purposes is to raise awareness, both among adoptees and society in general.
And how are you going to do that?
Through my writing primarily, but I'm also have some goals to get more politically active in the state of Arkansas, which is where I was adopted. I'm hoping to get politically active in this next year, now that we just had a new governor elected, and I'm hoping to get in touch with her and the lawmakers. One of the things that I want to push for is mandatory education and training for adoptive parents on, there's no excuse in this day and age for adoptive parents to adopt a child without knowing about the trauma, the initial trauma and the potential traumas, and how to meet their child's needs.
I know in the US it's very different for us than for us in the UK. And we don't actually have that training for our potential adopted parents, but for our foster carers, they go through a rigorous training to be able to look after somebody else's child, and they get checked on by social services regularly, and they have to comply to that. So it'd be really good to be able to see that happening for people that are going to be adopting a child as well.
Right, that's my goal.
Yeah. But we kind of think that adopting a child is it's rainbows and unicorns, and as adopted children, we are told that we need to be, we're lucky and what a wonderful thing we've had, which I'm not denying that. I'm not taking that away. And, and I've spoken to people that have had good adoptions and bad adoptions. But there needs to be a little bit more understanding from society about, like you say, the relinquishment trauma and the different traumas that we undergo as children, but we're not understanding them. So perhaps also there needs to be this education for children to really start feeling their feelings. I think for me, when I was a kid, I didn't feel my feelings, and I used to numb them out with whatever it was. And also, I couldn't talk about them. I didn't feel safe to talk about my feelings because I've been told to feel lucky.
Right, and that's one thing that we have to change, is giving adoptees a voice and listening and hearing what adoptees have to say. But yeah, because of, the pre-verbal nature of the trauma, it's so hard for us to speak about, even as adults, but, especially as children. And that's part of the training that I want to do for the adoptive parents, is helping them to give their child a voice as opposed to speaking for them.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So do you have different laws in different states?
There are different laws in different states, yes. And it varies greatly. In some states, you still can't get your original birth certificate. In others, it's, very easy to get. But yeah, it definitely varies widely by state.
And so do you see this, would you like to see this as a national change and all states run the same? Would that ever be possible?
That is a long-term goal, definitely. Have to start somewhere. So I'm starting on my state level.
And is that in Texas or in Arkansas?
It's actually in Arkansas.
Okay. So does that mean you need to keep traveling over there, or can you do it from your own home?
I actually live in a twin city, so even though I live in a different state, I'm in the same town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a little town called Texarkana. Half of it's in Texas and half is in Arkansas.
Oh, I see. Right. So there's kind of the border runs through the middle of it type of thing.
Yes, yes. So
Right.
I own land in Arkansas, so I still have ties to Arkansas. I'm just currently renting in Texas, so
I see. So actually, you could do both of the states, couldn't you? Do
yeah.
Arkansas first and then move on to Texas.
Well, that's sort of how I see it progressing. Arkansas, I think, is, I don't want to say easier, but it's going to be a more manageable first task, I think. And Texas is a lot bigger state. That's going to be a longer term project. But yeah, I'm hoping to start in Arkansas and move to Texas.
So do you have a community of people helping you do this, or is it you on your own?
Yes, I have a community. I mean, I do most of the writing on my own, but I do have a community of adoptees I bounce ideas off of, even some non-adoptees who, will tell me, give me their feedback. I mean, oh, and I also, I can't believe I almost forgot about this. I'm in a writing group with Ann Peck. She runs, had a writing program I got involved in, and I started working with her on my fiction novel that I'm working on. And that group has just proven to be invaluable, both with writing and healing and working through and processing everything that's come up.
So Anne Peck is another adoptee, is she?
Yes, ma'am. She has written a novel.
So what are you working on at the moment? You're working on your novel or on something non-fiction?
I actually have several projects going at the same time. Um, my long-term project is a novel series that is set to come out in 2024. It may be pushed to 2025, but the goal is 2024. Um, it is called Family Vacation, an Adoptee's Journey Home. Um, the series starts where the fictional character Margot is in a good place, but she has an unexpected reunion, and that triggers her PTSD and sends her on sends her on a mission to find answers and learn the truth. And it's based on, me crossing paths with my uncle, but it unearthed a lot of lies. It's a very good story. There's a lot of mystery. There's some romance, drama, plenty of drama, some tragedy. It's a good story. It actually started out as one novel, and I was talking to Anne in the group one day, and they said, "You're trying to put 3 novels into one. You need to do a series." So that's kind of how that bore out. So that is a long-term project. In the meantime, I am working on an ebook called FAQs for Adult Adoptees. Ooh, I don't know what that was. Is this better?
I can still hear you. Yes, that's fine.
Oh, okay. FAQs for adult adoptees, and basically, I'm working with another adoptee on this, but we have taken a group of about 100 adoptees, and we've asked questions and done some surveys, and we identified the top 20 questions that adoptees ask, or that adoptees want to know. Things like, what is the fog? How do I get my original birth certificate? How do I respond to gaslighting? How do I set boundaries? We have 20 questions, and we're working on that. That should be out in 2023.
Okay, so that sounds amazing. How would we find these questions for ebook?
Right now, the best way is to follow my author page. That will have updates. I do not have a website for it yet, but that is on my Instagram, and it's at Ruthie.Jackson.Author.
Okay, we'll pop that link into the show notes as well. And then from there, they'll be able to see when the family vacation is also published.
Yes, that is where I update all of my writing projects.
Okay, lovely. So what is that where you write put all your content and writing?
I have one that is focused on specifically adoption, and that is the Adoptees Voice. But I post a lot more there than just my writing, but it is adoption focused content. The goal behind the Adoptees Voice is primarily to validate, encourage, and support other adoptees. I also use it to try to help non-adoptees understand, but that is the primary purpose of the Adoptees Voice. So that's the difference in my two Instagram accounts.
So is that also on Instagram? Yeah.
Yes.
You haven't got a Facebook group or anything?
No, there's not a Facebook group. I'm on LinkedIn, and I do have a website. It should be up by the time this airs. It's theadopteesvoice.com, and that'll have a lot more information. And I'm also on Substack. The Adoptees
I've never heard of Substack.
Substack is a place where you can basically establish your own newsletter and post articles. If you want to follow my articles, I post a weekly article, and you can subscribe, and it'll go straight to your inbox.
Beautiful. Why do you think it's so important for adoptees to have their say and have their voice heard?
Well, I think there's two reasons. Number one, I've already kind of addressed this, but it's key to our healing. I mean, we need our pain, our trauma, our loss validated. In one of the surveys, I asked adoptees what they needed for healing, and validation was a recurrent theme that came up. But also, we need to be heard because we have been spoken over for so long, and the ones who are speaking for us do not necessarily have our best interests at heart. We've had adoption agencies who have billions to profit off of adoption, not family preservation. They have millions to profit off of, it could damage their profits if adoption trauma was a known thing. If, potential adoptive parents, realize that they may be raising a child with, that has a lot to deal with. There's a common misconception that it's the same thing as raising a biological child. That's what my adopted mother thought, and it wasn't. And that's an awful burden to try to feel. I'm sorry, I'm chasing a little bit of a rabbit here, but no, I think that the adoptees need to be heard for our own healing and for child-centered adoption reform. I mean, we're the ones affected by it. We're the ones with the lived experience. I mean, I wouldn't tell someone who had lost their child how to mourn that, because I've never experienced it. And it's the same thing. can't tell us what we need and what needs to be done when they don't have the experience. They may be exposed to our experience, but they haven't lived it. And that's why we need to be heard.
Mm. Mm. I recall you saying at the beginning that you're finding your birth family was a story in itself. Would you like to share that?
Sure. It's actually a very interesting story, and it's kind of what prompted me to begin writing the family vacation. I started dating my boyfriend in February, and everything was going great, young romance. And he plays golf. And one day I went to the golf course with him, and um, we were on hole 4, and he happened to mention the name of one of the guys that was playing golf with. And I instantly recognized the name. It was my birth mother's brother. And I said, hold on, what what did you just say? And it took me a little while to process. And the next day, I didn't go to the golf course. They play every Saturday and Sunday, but he went on Sunday and told my uncle that, asked him if my mother was his sister, and he said yeah. And so then he told him that I was her daughter, and that it's been good. It's been awkward, but everybody at the golf course knows my business. I don't necessarily want everyone knowing my adoption story, but that's being adopted in a small town. That's part of it, I guess.
So you were born in the same town that you live in now?
Yes, I was actually another one of those twin city deals. I was actually born in Texas, but adopted in Arkansas, and I was only about a mile apart.
Oh, wow. And so had you seen your adoption file to know your uncle's name?
No, I met my birth mother when I was 21. And I learned the names of her family members, and it's not a very common last name, so it stuck out. And his first name isn't very common either, so it stuck out in my memory.
Oh, I see. Are you still in contact with your birth mother now?
No, she struggles a lot with addiction, and I've tried to have a relationship with her over the years, and it just hasn't worked out.
So that's quite a challenge to navigate as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is. She told a lot of lies. I'm still trying to sort all that out. I'm actually ordering my records now. I'm waiting on them to come in from the state. She lied about who my father was, and so I'm trying to get the details about that. I actually just recently found my father, which was as a result of finding my uncle. That kind of led me down the path of where I got to the point of the torture of the unknown was worth the risk that she could have been telling me the truth. So I ordered the ancestry test on Father's Day and got my results August 3rd and found him a few days later.
So this is all very recent then, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is, but yeah, it's recent.
Are you still trying to process that?
Somewhat. I feel like 95% of the healing is done, or I have 95% of the pieces I need for closure and healing. I couldn't heal until I met my father. I couldn't heal until we established a relationship. That was the missing piece, and I had been trying my whole life, and I was just trying in vain because I couldn't heal without the missing piece.
So you have a relationship with him now?
Yes. Yes, it's new, but we've just kind of taken it slow. He had no idea about me. He would have kept me, which was just a very sad part of it. My birth mother lied. Someone signed their rights away to me, but we don't know who, so we're waiting on the records to get here for that. But yeah, we're developing a relationship. We've been texting and several times a week, try to talk a couple times a week, and it's developing naturally, but I can tell that he cares about me, that I feel accepted, and that's all I've ever wanted.
Oh, I'm really happy for you that it's going the way that you want it to go, and long may it continue.
Yes, I know I'm very fortunate because I know it does not always work out that way. I feel like I have a good reunion experience and a bad reunion experience, so I can really kind of relate to both. So I'm really cherishing the good part that I've been able to experience.
So apart from your writing, what other self-care practices do you use?
I love being outdoors. That is very refreshing. I love to travel, even just day trips or weekend getaways. There's a really pretty little, we're close to Oklahoma. There's a really pretty little town called Hochatown. It's perfect place to get a little cabin in the woods. I love to escape there. Exercise. I love to work out. Have not been, depression got the best of me, I'm not gonna lie, but that is one thing I'm getting back into, is walking. And but yeah, physical activity is very, very good for my mental health. And just spending time with friends and family. I mean, just that social connection has been key.
Yeah. If you could give some words of wisdom to our younger listeners, what would they be?
To adoptees?
Yeah.
One of the quotes that emerged from my own writing that has been key to me, and I've gotten such good feedback on, is that adoption is full of confusing, complex, and even contradictory thoughts, feelings, and emotions. It's totally okay, and it is normal for them to all coexist simultaneously. I think people who haven't experienced adoption can't understand that reality, can't understand that good can coexist alongside bad, that you can be grateful for your adoptive parents and still incredibly sad about losing your birth parents. I mean, contradictory feelings are totally normal. It's normal to be confused. And I know for myself personally, for so long, I tried to fight against that to be quote unquote normal. But just accepting the chaos that it is just don't try to fight it, accept it and work with it and experience it, and you'll get through it. It's a long process though.
Have you ever used a therapist?
I have not had much luck with therapy. I'm honestly, that is another thing on my agenda is to train therapists in adoption, because I've had a long list of therapists who have known that I was adopted and didn't make any association that was my problem, even though I'm a classic textbook example of adoption trauma and relinquishment trauma. So I have not had much luck with therapists. But that is something that I definitely would like to look into, because I know I could use the help of a therapist.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I haven't had any luck with a therapist either, which is why I learned, which is why I became a coach. And also I don't believe that we need to, get into the nitty-gritty of the past and unpack it and what have you, because it's what's happened. We can't change it, and we want to understand our emotions and our traumas. I don't think that always happens by talk therapy. I do think it has its place, but also if you combine it with a deeper body kind of healing therapy modality. I think that's the word I'm using, modality.
Right.
So
that's why I love the physical exercise. That's why it coincides with the mental healing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. By doing something, we can move energy around, but also there's a lot of information within the sensations that are held within the body. And once we start really beginning to communicate with our body, we can start really unpacking for ourselves those triggers and traumas, and where we need to put boundaries in, and really starting to know ourselves, really encapsulating the truest expression of us.
Right.
Yeah, because we've spent so many years putting all these different masks on. I don't know about you, but I definitely have lots of different masks to fit in. And those masks have kept me safe. They've had their place. But there comes a time when those masks need to start being removed, so you can excavate the light underneath the darkness.
I agree.
So is there anything else that you'd like to share with my audience before we finish up?
I think that's it. I would love to connect on Instagram. That's my primary outlet. I benefit just as much from connecting to other adoptees as I do having people follow me. So I welcome, followers. I'll follow back. I'm not the best at it, so it might take me a week. But no, just that's the best way to keep in touch. And I would love to get in touch with other adoptees.
Beautiful. Okay, well, thank you so much, Ruthie, for being on the show. I wish you all the best with your changing your state and then eventually the nation in your country. And yeah, keep in touch with us, and we look forward to hearing about your journey in doing exactly that and letting adoptees' voices be heard. So
Well, thank you.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So my name's Emma Greenslade. You're listening to Real and Raw Adoptee Talks. If you'd like to be on the show and share your story or share something you're passionate about, then please do get in contact. You can see all the details in the show notes. And we're also going to put Ruthie's books and links and websites and the Instagram accounts that she has, so you can get in contact with her. And we are honoured that you have been listening to our show.